I haven't seen a lot of foreigners in the part of Mexico City where I live in, but where I've seen a lot of them are in popular places and restaurants. For example, 2 weeks ago, I went to the Chapultepec Park and I was amazed how many tourists there were, from Chinese to Americans. There were a lot of tour guides explaining them about Los Niños Héroes and about the castle. Also, in places like La Condesa or La Roma, there are a lot of tourists. Before the pandemic, I haven't seen so many of them living here in Mexico City. I've seen that in most restaurants they have implemented an English menu for the foreigners. Also, most of the people that sell food in the street speak basic English to communicate with them. I've read that rents in La Condesa and La Roma, places I mentioned before, have many tourists. Therefore, the rents have implemented and it's been a huge problem. Now, most Mexicans aren't able to afford to live there anymore. Since most foreigners are paid in dollars or euros, they can pay it easier. I think Mexican culture is being threatened by foreigners in some way, especially by the Americans because we're adapting our country for them to be happy. In the example I mentioned before, it's sad to see how many people from their own country can't afford the lifestyle they had before the arrival of the foreigners. Mexicans should be the number one priority of Mexicans. We need to help each other out. We're giving foreigners a lot of power to control our money, our culture, our language we communicate with, etc. Also, this is creating more poverty than what it already exists. With the arrival of foreigners to live here in popular residential places, the cost has been increasing. I think in most cases globalization is good because it makes us evolve and unite the people. I think Mexico is a country full of culture, tradition, and history that for it to be disappeared it would take several years. But I mostly think that when you arrive to a new country, specifically to live in, you should adapt to that country's culture. I don't think it's okay at all to arrive at a new country and set your culture in a new community. It's good to share a part of your culture with food or traditions, but
To my knowledge, I believe my culture is both well received and included in Canada, and more specifically, Vancouver. My family originates from the Philippines and migrated to this country when both my paternal and maternal grandparents respectively moved here back in the late 1950s. In my experience, there is nothing but love for the Filipino culture amongst the Canadian people. A wide percentage of the people at my school are Filipino as well, and those who are not are more than embraceful of my culture as a whole. The impact of multiculturalism in my country is being around multiple ethnicities and being a part of a community that shares different cultural backgrounds from around the world. A personal example of this is getting to know people during my time in high school and learning about their backgrounds and what their traditions are. I also got to know many people from around the world, like Raquel, who traveled here in Canada for education and got to learn more about them and communicate. The beliefs about multiculturalism in my peer group are mostly agnostic. Many of the people that I know are practicing Catholics. I live in Vancouver, and my general area, there are a lot of practicing Roman Catholics. A lot of Filipinos in the area that I live in are Catholics and have attended private schools, receiving an education that included religion class. My family is Roman Catholic, but we are not practicing. We attend the big events at the church and say prayers during meals, but we do not regularly attend Mass every Sunday. For me, My generation is not being threatened in any ways that I know currently. I am a second generation Filipino in Canada, and while I know my roots and where I came from, we don't regularly participate in events held by my community. I did as a kid, as my father and uncle are black belts in a Filipino stick fighting martial art and put on performances for events. I think language gets lost in the second generation and onwards. While there is a large Filipino community, myself and my cousins all don't speak Tagalog, with few being able to understand it. There are rituals when someone passes away where we honor them for 90 days, but I wouldn't be able to run those events or know how to set them up. Even though Canada celebrates multiculturalism and is shown through food and restaurants, communities actually do seem to stick together.